Hello, my name is Pitiki Aliakai, and I'll be talking about Miles Davis and specifically So What. Now, So What was a essential record that came in the Kind of Blue album in the year of 1959, which is such an important year of jazz, such an important year for music. Now, before I go deeper into that, I want to give a little background on Miles Davis and his career. So, Miles Davis is essentially one of the most important figures in the history of jazz, and he was a catalyst for a lot of movements, as you have, I'm going to explain. Specifically, this So What record on the Kind of Blue album was modal jazz, what they called modal jazz. I'll go into a little bit more detail on that later. But Miles Davis, of course, from America, um, African American, uh, and his background, unlike many other jazz musicians from the past, his background, he wasn't poor. He grew up pretty well, and he had quite. His father had quite a lot of land, a farm, and he was able to live quite a decent childhood, at least financially. Then he picked up the trumpet in high school, and from there he built. And he when he first heard the sound of Charlie Parker, he really went out and went to meet him. And when he found him, they played together, and it's from there he really developed his sound. And he always had a unique sound about him, and unique personality too. And he was always a man that let his personality and feelings come out, and he would never leave anything. He was always himself in terms of the sound. In whatever era he was in, you could hear that's Miles Davis. He really had a soft timbre. He didn't play a lot of lines, but he could, because he came out of the bebop era with Charlie Parker and Dizzy. But from then on, he kept on pushing the boundaries. Now, specifically, onto So What. So What is really a revolutionary, Kind of Blue is really a revolutionary record because, firstly, it was really commercial in a time where jazz was really going out of the mainstream with all these genres coming out, rock and roll, Motown. So really, jazz had gone to the back. But Kind of Blue was, I think, up to now is the best-selling jazz record. And now in this record, really, he takes brings modal jazz and something. It was a revolution in jazz because up to that point, really, musicians had really been expanding the harmonic vocabulary and increasing the amount of chords you play on. Now, Miles Davis is known to explore, and of course, modes have their origins in a lot of folk musics around the world. Of course, they were not going deeply into those folk musics, but the concept of modes and the way it functions in jazz at the early point, they would they would have a specific mode, and they would really stick to that mode and play. So it forced them to play really way more melodically and more horizontal lines. And this really suited Miles' playing, and I think pushed him to further develop his sound and put more emphasis on tone and more on the melody that you're playing. Tone, colors, and melody. So in this, but Miles Davis was introduced to modal jazz by George Russell, and it was after this he was fascinated, and George Russell introduced him to Bill Evans, who had been more accustomed to this, and Miles Davis was really he liked bringing together great musicians and not rehearsing a lot when recording. So he brought together Bill Evans, John Coltrane, Paul Chambers, bass, and Miles Davis himself. So with this group, he was able to of great musicians in their own right. They and I think I left Cannonball Adderley off of that. Yes, Cannonball Adderley was also on that record. And with this group, he was able to cultivate certain sound with his leadership, and really with these simple ideas, putting great musicians on the spot, and really the great ideas came out. And so what was you can hear the freshness of the record because it's in one take. You can hear the freshness, the attention, and it leaves space for each person's personality to really come out. When Miles Davis starts the solo, John Coltrane comes in, it's a different thing. And yes, I think it was a really great achievement to be done, to bring those people together at that time and to really push forward the possibilities of what jazz can be. And I think from where it has evolved from now, I don't think a lot of what we hear right now or what came in the 60s, 70s would have happened like it did without Miles Davis kind of blue. So this is my little short introduction to the importance and the impact of the kind of blue had on jazz music and the rest of the world. Thank you.